Welcome to another episode of Behind the Billboard, the series that tells the stories behind some of the greatest billboards of all time.
Together, we're going to discover the people, the processes, and the preposterous ideas that have made these billboards happen.
We've chosen to work with one very simple criteria in mind. It has to have a story to tell.
So, Mike Nicholson, welcome to Behind the Billboard.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for coming on. I'm going to ask, where do we find you today? I sort of know the answer because I can see you, obviously, because I'm not an idiot. But I think for our listeners, could you tell me where you are?
Yeah, I live in West Dulwich in London. I'm currently in our spare room, which is the Cath Kidston suite with floral wallpaper.
Yeah. And for people, obviously, who can't see the live stream, Dan, why haven't we done that yet? Mike's in a really lovely bedroom. I'm hoping that's not your personal... well, maybe it is. Maybe.
Well, I think that's what's been great about this whole year, hasn't it? It's been we get this amazing view into everyone's spare rooms and living rooms and kitchens.
I got to say,
I like that artwork behind
I think
you.
Tiger Savage is definitely knocking Mike out here, but let's keep going. I'm very pleased about the shirt though, because some of my Secret Squirrel research people, who I'll talk about later in the show, said, "Let's hope he's wearing a Hawaiian shirt."
Yeah,
so
I've been living in Hawaiian shirts for about the last 5 years, to be honest. But
then reading many of your very good biogs around the interweb, it says something about green jumpers. So is that like a winter?
That was kind of when I was working full time and always had this one green jumper that kind of stuck, and that kind of has been
okay.
Was it a Brian Clough thing, or was it
just really frugal with clothes? And it was a top man jumper. And even when I was sort of relatively successful, I still wouldn't buy any new clothes, and it wound up, especially Paul Pateman, a lot. And at one point, I went up to pick an award wearing it, and the compere, I think, absolutely nailed me, going, "Finally, now you'll be able to afford to buy some decent clothes."
Oh. I like that.
Was that the catalyst to switch to the
No, it just disintegrated. It finally fell apart, so I didn't have a choice. And refusing to buy any more jumpers. A student, so my mentor bought me a jumper, so I have got one now.
But I think that's you're already creating a brand, right? The guy with the green jumper brand.
Exactly. Yeah. Subliminal branding, I guess.
So, Mike, we have to do the bigging up bit. So, I'm going to spare. Well, I'm not going to spare you blushes, Mike. You are a massively awarded creative person. I think 130 gongs I've read it in various places at all the major shows. So that is some achievement, mate. I think you've been ECD at many places here and abroad. I've touched upon Canada, the partnership, and I've found about something called Toaster, which is part of Google.
Yeah.
And then there's Brave, and there's all sorts of other places in between. You're a fascinating character, and I've never actually met you in real life, so this is about as close as we're going to get. But the most fascinating thing and the most exciting thing for me and Dan and John and everyone behind the billboard is you're a tutor. So we've been longing to stretch our brand a bit and not just keep talking to just creative. So we've never had a man of a man of words and education. So here we are, another first for us and Mike Nicholson. So welcome to the show.
Cool.
We thought that given this is the kind of the launch of our third season of Behind the Billboard, we'd launch with a bit of a new feature for our guests. And I know you had the brief during the week, Mike. So the feature is called "The Billboard at the End of My Street," and that's Hugh's jingle.
Well, it wasn't me farting. That was just a jingle.
So before we get into your work and kind of having a look at all the amazing stuff that you've done, we thought we'd just have a look at what's happening at the end of your street. So the one that you've sent through, do you want to talk us through it and where you saw it?
I live on a quite busy bus route, and I walked out my front door, and the first poster literally was a bus driving by. So I grabbed a shot of the bus side, and I did manage to kind of read it and take it in as it went by. It's for Sports Direct, and it's the campaign they've just launched, which features Eric Cantona and his famous quote, "Just a game, it's never a game." And the line reads, "Football starts here, Sports Direct." And there's an image of Cantona wearing a suit, surrounded by, I think, probably famous footballers wearing various kits.
Good. And you took all that in 3 seconds.
Not well, yeah. It went by relatively slowly.
So let's do our jobs as seasoned creatives. What would we give this poster as a mark out of 10? Do you think? Is it doing its job?
No. It's a short one.
Apologies to the person who wrote it. Well, I think joking aside, I think it's important to say yes or no and be pretty harsh because this is all about what's out there. So yeah, if it's a no, it's a no. And can you sort of tell us what? I mean, I sort of know why, but I wonder if you could tell our listeners why it's a bit of a no.
Well, to your point earlier, it goes by pretty quick. You don't really take it in, and then I got back and I looked up, who did it and the campaign and all that sort of stuff. And it's part of a broader campaign, so there's a TV element, and when you get into the sort of details behind it, they're launching a range of clothing that's upcycling kit and reselling it, and it's all kind of really interesting, that bit. So they've done the classic, let's take the frame from the TV and the line from Cantona and use Cantona as a celebrity and borrow all that interest and marry Euros somehow and talk about something generic like football starts here and then sports director.
Oh God,
it's just such a missed
when you said when you said Cantona, I thought it was going to be, which was another what I feel is a missed opportunity. It was this food brand, can't tell you which one it was, but it said Eric Cantona new food brand thing at Euros. I thought, this would be good. Eric Cantona's one of the finest footballers ever, clearly. He's actually quite a funny guy. He's dry. He's a brilliant actor.
Yeah.
How are you going to use him? And they just give him the food and he just picks it up and walks out of shot. And I'm going, you fucking can't be serious. That is not how you use Eric Cantona, but it was. So again, I suppose in best use of Eric Cantona, there are...
I think it was Just Eat. I think I think he's the new face of Just Eat.
But I think in the subcategory of Billboard at the end of my road, best use of Cantona, I think there's no shortlist this year. I think it's...
So, Mike, what would you say when one of your students came up and showed you this in response
exactly
to a brief?
I often say just don't borrow interest, don't use existing culture, create new stuff. And if you're going to use celebrities, try and get them in on the joke and make them relevant rather than just chuck money at it.
Because the thing you just said there is intrinsically interesting, which is upscaling clothing.
Yeah.
And Eric Cantona, that's a cool brief for me. And I'm going, oh yeah, seeing Cantona in some sort of like shit distressed, like $5.99 shirt sort of thing my daughter buys at a charity shop, you go, that's funny.
Yeah.
Do you think that approach is indicative of what's happening in the out of home space right now? Is that there's kind of this, just reversion everything that we've got from other channels and just stick it on the side of a bus or on the back
exactly. I mean, you look at the BBC have just done some stuff for the Euros. I think James Cross was the CD on it, or the ECD, and there's some really great headlines, and it's just really insightful and well written, and that's an out of home campaign, and they're all great, and it just feels like people, probably due to time constraints and budget, but they just take an asset and just repurpose it everywhere, and they using the media.
While you're there,
While
you're there, because I'm pleased you said that, because I'm actually at the BBC at the moment.
Oh, cool.
I wasn't involved in those, but I saw a couple of great posters for Euros, which was the Scottish thing.
Yeah,
football's coming home, which I think is a belter.
I think that's
stood out.
I think that's the corner, isn't it? That did that, maybe.
Yeah, Max, and it just stood out for so many reasons. Because I think it's a great poster, but B, it's a good old nudge to the English. It's 3 words.
Yeah.
When they cross it out, it actually looks like a Scottish flag. There's so many brilliant things about it. Anyway, we mustn't talk about that because I know we're going to put that on the social. But I think, I suppose what we wanted to ask you: do you feel it's a good moment for the industry? I mean, Ben Kay, another one of our sort of gang, wrote a piece in Creative Review the other day. Didn't manage to mention the podcast, Ben, but we'll forgive you because I knew you tried to, but you didn't manage to because Eliza Williams wouldn't let you. Not that I'm going to go on about it, Eliza. But he was saying rightly, and sort of Dan and I had done this about quite a while ago, saying there is a bit of a renaissance, B&Q and Spotify and BBC and, stuff we just talked about. Do you, apart from the sort of shit ones you see here and there, do you feel like it's turning a corner? Is it a good moment?
I think it's always been the same, to be honest. I mean, there's always been great work pops out occasionally, and it is down to the teams and the agencies to do the right thing, really. And I do think a lot of people have got just going through the motions and just putting the same thing out everywhere rather than doing a poster where a poster should go and make it slightly different. So, I think Mother have done great stuff with IKEA recently. The Tomorrow Starts Tonight is great posters, I think, that campaign. I forget the team that did the Netflix sort of spoiler campaign. I thought that was brilliant. And the Marmite exploding lid sort of special build stuff. There's some really strong work out there, and it sticks out a mile when you see it because it's great. It's just rare.
It does.
That's up to the creatives to do it.
I mean, I think that's a really good point, because I think, without sounding like an old twat, and I am going to sound like an old twat, in the old days you'd go Marmite and KFC and something else. There would be them amongst, Economist and Nike and Guardian, and Levi. There'd be shitloads, and you go, they're all pretty good. Which I'm finding at the moment is, when you do something pretty good, it fucking really flies. Yeah. Because, like you said, there's not so much, and I can't work out. I don't think it's just billboards. I think it's film and digi and a lot of stuff. And I don't know whether it's a pandemic thing or whether it's austerity.
I mean,
what do you think?
I think what we've been experiencing over the last 12 months has obviously been relatively unique, and we're seeing. We talked about this quite a few times. We're seeing more stuff on our timelines than we have done before, because people are sharing their work and we're all sitting at home and absorbing it in a different way than we have done in offices. But I mean, in terms of signs of recovery, from on the media side, the stats that we're seeing at the moment are incredible. The rates that the media owners are selling outdoor spaces for this summer are back up to kind of pre-COVID levels. So we're already seeing, and that's before the restrictions are actually officially lifted. So occupancy on out of home is going to be up to near 95 to 100% of space. So we hopefully will be seeing much more interesting work and bigger, broader campaigns in out of home than we have done over the last 12 months. And I think that unfortunately the thing that we're looking at in front of us, this Sports Direct thing, is kind of, it's on one of the cheaper formats on out of home. Bus sides are one of the cheaper formats that get people reach. And I think it kind of reminds me of something that Hegarty said when he was on, is that they kind of, some of these formats almost become disposable and unloved, therefore. So from a craft perspective, the agencies and creatives just don't put the effort into it because it's an unloved medium, and it's cheap and disposable at that point.
Yeah, I think it's just down, like I said, I think it is down to the companies and the creatives to just do it as best they can and not just copy the TV or whatever and just put that as a poster.
Yeah.
I remember when I was going to run my book, Trevor Nall said to me that this might be your only brief of the year, your only chance. And they go, and it's a bus side adapt from TV, and you got to go fucking hell. I mean, we just done a huge thing on The Apprentice at BBC. It's all going through the motions, but we've got a very funny film that's been hanging around for a while. But we've got to create a whole campaign not to do with the TV in case you don't see it, and that's some people see that as a blimey. And I kept saying, this is just like brilliant. This is so exciting. That's your playground now. Right. So I know we're rabbiting on. I know we're slightly tight for time. So I just wanted to get you, Mike, take you back in time a little bit. And could you briefly tell us how you got your first job in the business? I know you were a fence maker and an ale puller and a gardener. I wasn't sure whether your LinkedIn timeline is true or not.
That's all genuine.
Is it?
Yeah.
When you say ale puller, is this your copywriting skills already coming? The fact that you just pulled a few pints.
It was the Towersey Ale Festival, and we were paid in ale, and there was a load of folk singing, long bearded, tankard owning that would just drink, random ales, and that was the job.
Oh mate, it's brilliant. I mean, maybe we should just talk about that for an hour. It's fucking hilarious. It
was good fun. So super briefly, I grew up near Towersey in Buckinghamshire. I went to the Dragon School in Wellington College, and I had an amazing art teacher at Wellington that inspired me to do art, not a traditional career. And then I applied for blokes and did a foundation in fine art generally, and I was too fine art. I wanted to go to St Martin's to do graphics, and was rejected by 8 art schools because my portfolio wasn't great. And then luckily one of the tutors, Frances, connected me with East Ham Tech College in Newham, where she taught graphics on a BTEC. So I went out all the way out to East London, and it was amazing. There's just no money or facilities or anything, just really hungry students and great teachers. And in a year, I managed to get a portfolio together that got me into Central St Martin's to do graphics, where I specialise in advertising. And then Peter Suter came to my private view. Steve Henry was assessing the course as well at the time, and both of them kind of took an interest in my stuff with my partner at the time, Daryl Core. And I went off and got married after the degree to Claire, and ended up coming back. And Daryl said, we've got a placement from AMV, and we're sort of starting now.
Great.
Which was amazing, which was great. I was very lucky. Peter was deputy ECD at the time. David Abbott was still running Abbott Mead. And Peter wanted to bring in juniors. So we were like guinea pigs in the experiment, because everyone at the time was like creative directors, super senior, really talented teams. And we were, thanks.
Yeah.
So that was my first start. And then...
Can I say that's not, of all the places to start, it's like sort of, do you want to play for Real Madrid or, I don't know, would have been Liverpool or United? It's quite, I imagine you must have learned shitloads there.
Oh man, I was so lucky. I mean, Steve Henry, it was this weird moment where we were either going to go to Hal Henry or Abbott Mead, and my show had like the work up on the wall that I thought was our best stuff. Like we'd finished it up, but then on the floor in a bottom drawer, like a plant chest drawer, literally was all my scamps and ideas. That was the bottom drawer, and Steve was rummaging through all that, going, "These are better than the work on the wall." So that was sort of already just summarised the difference between Hal Henry and AMV.
Right.
And anyway,
that's so funny.
Always wondered what would have happened if we'd gone one way rather than the other.
So when you got into Abbott Mead,
yeah.
I sort of secretly know this. Actually, I remember judging this, I think, or seeing it thinking, fucking hell, that's a cool poster. And I didn't know, obviously, you or Daryl or anything, which I kind of love when you blind judge, because you just go, that is amazing. It was a poster for tunes.
Yeah.
And it had three packs of tunes and a plungy bit at the end.
Yeah.
And that was it. No logo, no line, no stupid website, no hashtag. And it was just like stood out like a dog's dick. Could you just tell us a bit about how you got there, the briefing thing?
So we were on placement, as I said, and literally surrounded by these amazing creatives, freaking out, not wanting to make it up. And the brief came in. Peter came down one Friday evening going, look, there's a 6-sheet poster brief for tunes. It's a mandatory, you've got to show 3 pack shots. It's not a great brief, if I'm honest, but at least you'll get to make a poster and stick it up and your mum will be proud. We need it by Monday. Yeah. And I just kept thinking, on the pack, the end line was already on it, which said, helps you breathe more easily. It was a cough suite. And I just thought, well, that's the line. Right. So let's just try and make the products to something and integrate that into a visual. And then it all just sort of came together and we presented it. And then Teresa Kinnear, the account lady, amazing Irish woman, just sold it to the client straight away. We went off and shot it with, who was it? Kelvin Murray, I think, did the shot.
Yeah.
And then...
Did you make was it a model or was it a comp?
Yeah, it was a comp.
Right.
Yeah, and it ran, and I guess were you judging Creative Circle or D&AD?
Yes, I was.
Yeah, so we were really lucky. Again, we were so naive at the time, but it won a gold for best newcomer and a few other circles, I think. And then it got into D&AD as a poster. And then Peter came down and said, look, he did this brilliant, really cruel thing, but it was brilliant at the time, which was, guys, I need to talk to you about poster. I'm afraid the placements, we can't extend it. We can't keep you on. And I just thought, oh no, we've blown it. And he said, but I can offer a full-time job. And that was it. So that poster got us in. It was our first ever brief at AMV. It went the distance. And what was great was when it started winning everything and got us the job, David Abbott acknowledged that and offered it to us. And all the department then wanted to work on it, having said they didn't want to work on it.
Brilliant. I mean, that's a kind of, that is a kind of carbon. I remember, I don't know if it's true now, But it's the sort of thing me and Adam would say to teams when they'd come in, you've got to do something that makes it, irrefutable that you should have a job.
Yeah.
And create a piece of work. And then you become the team that did the tunes poster, and then you already started your own kind of brand, and I suppose, well, you did that brilliantly. And I imagine you take that forward with you wherever you've gone. It's a great way to start, isn't it, in a way?
Yeah, we're really lucky, and I'm so grateful for, again, there's a famous Abbott quote, was, I love the freedom of a tight brief. And it was a tight brief. We had to do something visual, really. And it was a great opportunity. And there's no such thing as a bad brief, is the sort of story I tell to the students off that one.
Did you... go on, Dan.
While we're talking about the students there, Mike, you obviously you're picked up by AMV from the show.
Yeah.
From the end of your show, and you go, okay, you're straight in at the deep end on a live brief into AMV. Yeah. Did all of this happen in kind of 6 month window? You have your show. Did you start AMV straight away and then get the brief almost on the first day?
In August, got married, and then came back and started. But initially, because Peter was slightly worried, I think we did a placement at a company called Proximity, which is the below the line agency, and we worked on a pitch for double glazing windows. Yeah. And we did loads of stuff. We didn't win the pitch, but we had a nice idea, which was to have a white spaced ad in yellow pages, so it showed the windows never went yellow. So it's like a media idea. And that, I think, sort of swung it and got us into MB properly. And then that was that. And then, we got hard up within 3 months.
What?
And so, just on that student vibe, and obviously you're coaching young creatives now to kind of to do their best work while they're studying, and to hopefully be picked up and move into the professional world that we all work in. How is that how is your experience of can do the show, get the placement, and straight into work? How has that really helped you explain to the youngsters how to make that happen?
Yeah, so I was super lucky to be at AMV when I was, and I learned off so many amazing people in 14 years when I was there. And then I worked for, I guess, 20 years or so in great places, learning different things. And when I started teaching, I was just really conscious that I had all this knowledge and all this amazing kind of skills that everyone had sort of spent time giving to it. And I just wanted to hand that over. So that's what I've always been doing for the last sort of 4 years, is trying to collate as many of them as possible, and do a lot of posting and upload the talks on LinkedIn to sort of share it with people. And that's been the kind of why I'm motivated to do what I'm doing now. And it's how I kind of teach. I kind of just pass on tips, techniques and learnings to the students to prime them as best I can. Because in my head, I'm thinking, what do I wish I'd known then that I know now, and how can I best prepare them for the industry? So there's a whole bunch of stuff that.
But that's what I love about that, about the fact that they went through your bottom drawer. I was at St Martin's as well, and it was very much the same. Show your work on the wall, but then here's your
I tell them all the stories, and it's really. Yeah, I mean, I was very lucky to be where I was when I was, to be honest. They're just all outstanding people.
It'd be quite interesting to have a bit of a quote off, because I always found that wherever I go still, I always wang on about mostly what Hegarty has said. There's a bit of Droga, but it's a lot of Heg. I imagine you probably do a lot of Abbott and Suter.
Not really, because I rarely saw the man.
Okay.
He was very well protected, and I was far too junior. But there was, to be honest, there's kind of everyone. What I've tried to do is post these things about techniques and use those quotes.
Yeah.
But then, people like Dave Buchanan especially was incredibly good at constantly talking. He just naturally guided everything with so much wisdom. He stood out a mile.
Well, that's the sort of shame of not being in an office, really. I was sort of bemoaning this the other day. I mean, obviously, it's the pandemic. We can't change that much. But you miss the wander round and the person going, oh, that's good, but do you know what you need to do? You've got 2 words too many, or that'll make a great press ad. And it was always happening at BBH, and quite a bit of Saatchi's with Droga. It's a shame, because you can't do that on a Zoom call. You can't sort of walk past someone or pop your head back in and go, oh, do you remember that video that Tom York was in and that thing happened? You know, I wonder whether that is part of this sort of paucity of work at the moment, where you just don't get that organicness anymore. You get this quite cold call, then we write a bit of feedback, and then you go, right, off you go, rather than sitting there 6:45, still farting around. Do you fancy a beer? Do you fancy going again? You know, it's all of that. So yeah, I think, I mean, it's great that I love the fact that you're sort of a conduit from all of that brilliantness at Abbott's, and taking it on and giving it to people. I mean, I'm sure in your humble way, you add quite a lot yourself.
Yeah, I try to.
But
someone did say that to me. Said, "Don't stop talking about what you did as well," because I do talk about everyone else because I'm so grateful that they helped me. Really.
Yeah, those 130 awards weren't written by those others. Talking of great work, so we want to go into a couple more billboards before we talk a bit more about the lecturing.
Yeah.
Sorry for being a bit crap, because I couldn't actually work out your email, whether you said which ones do you want to talk about. But I was thinking, if we stay at Abbott Mead for a minute, because I love a timeline, should we talk about like Dunlop or Economist or Museum of Childhood? Which ones of those has got an interesting angle?
I skimmed through top line. So Dunlop was a competition. Me and Daryl didn't have anything on, and there's a brief that came in. Well, we just read about it. You know, do a poster for a client and win a prize, and so we did. Dunlop was a great client at the time that had done all the work with Tom and Walter for Tessa.
Oh yeah, amazing.
And again, this is similar to the plunger. Really, I was just thinking of visual ideas that were really simple, and the connection of the tires stick to the ground like magnets and stick to hairpin bends, and then it's a hairpin bend, and you know, it's pretty straightforward in a way as a concept. And we entered that competition, and it won the competition. So we got a load of free media for the client, and then we got travel vouchers so we could go on these amazing holidays. So again, it's really good to flag that.
Wow.
Just as always look out for competitions, always enter stuff, even whatever level you're at, because you know, it's just great.
Well, they're a bit like oxygen, aren't they? Because you don't have all that pressure and the agency of, you know, politics or bullshit or jealousy. Just someone going, right, I'm just going to go over here and do this for an hour or two. I love.
Yeah,
it's very liberating.
I've got a thread in which I realised in my career, and again, I kind of use it a lot when I'm teaching it about creating your own luck. You know, I think a lot of creatives can just do stuff and show the client the work they want them to run almost, especially with posters. It's relatively easy to make them and relatively cheap.
Yeah.
And just the more you do it, like most clients, when they see it, they love it, but they don't know what they want. So they kind of, everyone just sort of committee, you know, gets together and tries to work out the answer. And when creators are just left alone to do their thing and just try stuff and show stuff, that's kind of when great things happen.
Yeah, I'm always interested when I talk to creatives or look back on some of the stuff I've done, stuff with Dan I've actually done, where there wasn't a brief. It was just me and Adam, or me on my own, or me and another, like Phil and Darren at Leo's, just going, why don't we ever go at this? And, you know, and then you don't have any baggage. I mean, you do have challenges on finance and money and, you know, and getting it to a client. But once you're there, and then people go, oh, how did you do that thing for Dunlop? You're going, oh, it was a competition. And you're going, oh, yeah, mate. I mean, Tony Davidson, I remember him saying to me, you just, like you said, you just got to keep noodling, keep thinking all the time. And that makes you a better creative, I think, doesn't it?
I just love doing it. I just love thinking of ideas, and I love the medium of posters. I find it the best one for that, just to completely concrete your thinking and get it down, and it's just such fun.
It's hard though, isn't it? Also, like when you see it done, you go, oh yeah, of course, great poster, simple, 3 words, 5 or whatever, nice visual, hairpin bend, Dunlop, done. I mean, no one sees all that shit that you go through. I mean, you might have got there within the first 10 minutes, maybe not. But that's what I like about it. And you can't hide. You know, you can't hide behind a sort of editing process, or it'd be skippable, or you can take it down in a few hours because the data's not working. It's there.
We were kind of talking about this with Tiger, weren't we? In the end of the last season, talking about the 1-minute briefs and the stuff that the community of just people just being able to throw their hand at something while a brief is coming in, and you know, I love seeing that stuff on my timeline because people they spend some time on it. They do themselves a mock-up, and it's. Yeah,
I did. One of the talks I do is called "It Starts with a Poster," and I make the point in that posts, as in social posts, are posters really like static posts that can be great posters. It's the same discipline. They're just tiny, not 48 sheet or whatever. So, in my head, if you're doing social posts, just try and do posters with it, or, because it's the same. It's just scaled up.
Yeah, it's the,
it is the same.
It's the Paul Bell.
You're trying to stop someone scrolling, and posters trying to stop someone walking past it, and it's the same.
Paul came on. Paul was, I think, our second guest. We've got to get him back because there's so many things I want to talk to Paul about again. But
sure,
he talked about a banner ad, the very thin one or the slightly chubbier one. That's the same as a 96 or 48 Pro.
Yeah.
And again, like Dan just said, just stop somebody with that. Right, Mike, we're going to do one more, I think, because I really want to get into a bit more of the lecturing. We've got to talk about The Economist because everyone talks about The Economist. You did the first one without a logo, and then you did the first sort of bit of ambient. Can you just quickly walk us through your mini Economist stuff?
So again, we were very young and everyone was writing to The Economist, so we're competing against, all the greats like Riley and Foster and, Worthington and Hyatt and all these people, and it's just like, Christ, how are we going to get anything through? And I think David pretty much wrote 4 of the 8 every year anyway. Tried all that stuff and nothing got through. And then I was walking home one evening and saw those mirrors that let you see around the corner and thought, and the brief was stay ahead, keep up with The Economist. So I just thought, well, that again, it just came to my head when I was looking at it.
Perfect.
Went and spoke to Darryl and we printed out the ad as a layout in the studio, cut the hole from the mirror, stuck it up over the mirror, took a photo of it and then showed David that. And he loved it, showed it to the client. Right. It ran as the 9th ad of the 8 as an ambient, which I don't think was a thing at the time or not. I don't know.
Great.
So we got that through, just again by sort of creating our own luck. And then eventually did Cures Itchy Scalps, which was like a normal way of, just showing lines to guys. An Arts Machine, £2.40, where the logo was £2.40, not The Economist. Yeah, that was the first one without the logo. And again, just because we were lucky that, the campaign was so well known, you could do that. And then obviously Missing Piece came out years later with Martin and Matthews. That was way better.
Was it hard to sell in, the first one without the logo? Because obviously having the price on there.
I don't know. I wasn't in any of the meetings, but it happened. And what I love with this is it got in for copy in D&AD as a price ad with 2 words and a price.
Brilliant.
What I really like about...
You never know it's going to work.
I like about that story you just said, which is the round the corners thing. You're still bloody thinking about it on the way home, which is great. Yeah. But you're still thinking about it. I always think in a slightly less pressurised way and more of a noodle.
Yeah.
I very rarely have ever come out of anything sat at a blank page, sitting at my desk, sort of slightly chained to it. I've never, ever been inspired by that.
Sure.
So I love the fact that you did that. And then you and Darryl felt so confident. They said, right, fuck it, do it up. Actually go and take, put it there, and that is the bit sometimes that pushes someone over the line. You might have said to someone like, I don't know, Dave Dye or Tim or someone like, look, I've got this idea around the corner, and they might have gone, maybe, I don't know, mate. And I think, do you think that's something you teach your students?
It's a behaviour. I think
for it.
It helped being at St Martin's where we just made loads of stuff, and I always say to everyone, just make the work you want the client to buy, create your own luck, do stuff. Because it's such fun making stuff, especially when you're a student. And just quickly, go on to the Museum of Childhood maybe because it's sort of relevant, but again, with that stuff, I was then working with Paul Pateman and we were having an amazing run and being spoilt by Paul Brazier's,
So quickly, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
So you worked with Darryl.
Yeah.
And then you worked with Paul. And was that just a harmonious split? Because Darryl worked with Ben. And did you both just start working, just decide to sleep with someone else? Or did you get set apart by David? Or why was that?
No, we split up. We kind of were getting a bit stale and repeating the same things. And I ended up working on my own for a bit, actually, and Darryl teamed up with Ben and did a whole lot of stuff.
Okay, cool.
And then Nigel and Paul came in, so Nigel Roberts and Paul Belford, and wanted me to be in a team again. They wanted teams. And then Paul teamed up with me, which was great.
So how did you get to... So Museum of Childhood, you and Paul on a great run.
Yeah, so
everything you touch turns to gold, or does it?
Well, this is again kind of create your own luck. So we were down to the last 2 for Guinness with TV and research and up against Nerdy Love, and we lost out Matt and Ian, which is fair enough. And then we were making an international Motorola campaign, so 5 big TV spots in pre-production, and everything died Friday. Like the client, Motorola got bought by someone else, and everything got killed off. We lost out in research on Guinness. So me and Paul were like, what are we going to do? We've got to make something. And Paul knew the Bethnal Green, Museum of Childhood near where he lives, and so there's this great museum, we should do some ads for that. So we just walked into the museum, and when you go in there, you just relive your childhood, and that was the strategy. We wrote a load of ads, and Paul illustrated them because he wanted to get into doing illustration. So he did the first campaign, didn't tell anyone we were doing it.
Really?
Meeting with the client, proactively pitched the work and said, can we get the gig? And they were like, yeah, great, let's do this. And then told AMV, and they brought in the client as a client, and we did all the work properly.
Oh my God, I didn't know that. That's amazing.
Yeah, and it went from there. And then the second campaign, so the next year, I think the work was better with Inner Child and Memory Back Guarantee and all that stuff. And
yeah, the Inner Child is, it reminded me, and it very much reminded me of classic Bell from Roberts, absolutely banging headlines with banging art direction. And you just go in, the sort of thing Adam and I can only dream about, really, because we just would walk down the corridor to Andy Bird or get Tiger to help us out. So we just weren't art directors. And then, whereas you weren't just an art directing team, you had Paul as an illustrator. So in a way, you had the run a bit on people, rightly so. Yeah. And then you had that confidence. I think it's an amazing campaign.
But also, David Abbott would always let teams just get on with it. Like, he'd literally trust you with everything. He wouldn't have reviews. So it was on you to make it great. And only you could let it down, really.
Yeah. So that's a confident person, isn't it?
Yeah.
The Inner Child one feels like it's a frame from a Pixar short.
Yes.
It's that good. It's like the illustrative style.
Yeah, it's great. We did.
Yeah, it's the sort of thing you might find on the wall. Like, yeah, you're right, Dan. Like my mate at Nexus, they have stuff from their favourite films they've been involved with or ads. It's so beautiful. It's obviously an ad, but it's just beautiful.
Yeah, we're lucky. When we left, the client stayed, and who was it? Mark Fairbanks and Tiago. I always forget Tiago's surname, but they did some great work and carried on with it. And then they started selling the posters in the shop and all that sort of stuff, which is great. So I think, and Tiago came into school and did a talk on it, and he was mentioning how, when you can kind of do stuff and the client buys into it, and it has a campaign, like a life that keeps going, and the trust is there. You can. He always talks about doing stuff that sort of transcends advertising, that is cultural and all that kind of thing, which is great. And yeah, again, I think I'm really pleased we did it, and we left it with the agency as a sort of thank you for all the great campaigns that they gave us and we learned from and benefited from.
Yeah. And again, do you take that approach to when you're teaching? Obviously, you're teaching about what makes a good ad, how you subvert mediums, how to stand out and all that. But then you must also go, and this is how you got to bloody go and make shit happen.
Yeah.
Do you instill in them that?
Yeah, massively. If you speak to any of the students, they'll know how much I bang on about it. But just sort of skip. Do you want to talk about any more of the posters, or I could go into the teaching now?
The only thing I want to say is that I love the fact that we've chosen these ones, because obviously there's tons that we could have selected from with all of the work that you've done, but the theme as we move into the education section is creating your own luck. Yeah. I just love the fact that you've been proactive on these things, whether that was through the competition on Dunlop or proactively creating something for Economist and proving it to the client before they buy it, or walking into the museum and signing up a client for the agency. That is it's perfect for everyone out there who is kind of struggling with the briefs they've got. Don't worry about the briefs you've got. Think about the briefs you have.
I'll just quickly mention. So I went to TBWA and we said the same thing to the department: just create your own luck, just do stuff, and we'll do our best to get it out. And a few guys sort of got on board, but not many. So me and Paul asked around. This is a good little lesson for everyone about getting better work out, and said, look, what clients have still got budget they haven't spent? John Smith was the client we had and did the great No Nonsense campaign. So me and Paul did the commemorative plate work, which was at the time of the royal wedding, and William and Kate were getting married, and everyone was getting the day off. So we did a paper plate which said TAR for the day off or the extra day off, and and you could get a paper plate with every pint of John Smith's in the Yorkshire pubs. So there's 10,000 plates, 10,000.
No way.
Did the post.
Fucking brilliant.
And just said to the client, let's do this. And again, I talked to the students about doing topical ads. Anything's an opportunity. Just keep making stuff.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
and that was really effective as well. So, just ask the guys what money is there that's sat there, because clients need to clear their marketing budgets each year to get a new one, and they want to spend it to show they're doing stuff. So just try and...
I mean, that's another great point, is either topical ads or ads that are seasonal are massive opportunities, like Marmite, with Maggie.
Yeah.
Your one. I mean, I think you won a pencil, didn't you, for that?
Yeah, that got the sort of poster element. I mean, personally, I really like the promotion, the plate, but it got loads of PR, and the poster got a yellow pencil finally for us.
Yeah, because also, if you have if there's a weak year or you're struggling, like you say, remember me and Adam, we used to go, similar sort of thing. We go, what we can do. So I remember one year, Malcolm Venville had a movie, and we promoted that with a website. I think Dan and I got together through a domestic violence thing with some bespoke use of tech with posters. And it's just that, it's really weird, Mike, you say it, because I think it's either in you or not. And it hasn't ever left me. I'm still sort of farting around trying to do bits and bobs as well as all the official day job stuff.
Yeah.
And I think it's just intrinsically in you. And I think if you go, like you said, you can instill it in some people, like, it's funny, isn't it? And they just stand out, and they're just like these sort of beacons. And you kind of, I suppose that's people you go with.
Yeah, really, I mean, recently I've been doing consulting and freelance alongside the teaching, which is what I've been doing for 4 years now. And I've started just doing ads for fun and posting them. They're no brief. I haven't got the client. I'm just doing Nike ads because I've got ideas for Nike ads and sticking them online. Right. And that was, it's good fun. I just really enjoy it.
Yeah, it's like you're like literally living you're your own student.
Yeah, well, any downtime, I just crack out a couple of ideas and I'll share a tip.
So I want to ask the question, because I'm fascinated, actually. We want to talk about now your time as a lecturer at the SCA. So we've got about 10, 15 minutes left.
Okay.
How or when, why did you do it? Did you go, we kind of had enough of agency life, I want to see what life is over there? Yeah. Did you think, I want to educate people and make them understand all the joy and fun I've had? Was there one reason or moment you went, fuck this, I'm going to go and teach? Or did you just sort of stumble into it?
I was really lucky to work where I did, and I felt like I'd done everything. I was lucky to do the toaster work with Google and do all that kind of thing, and go out to Canada and set up the AMP partnership. So I kind of felt like I'd done that, and I'd run stuff, and I've got that out of my system. And I really miss just talking ideas, like you say, the serendipity, the chat in the department, bouncing off each other, and really wanted to get back to doing ideas and being a creative. So I left being an ECD and went and spoke to Mark Lewis, who's the Dean at the School of Communication Arts 2.0. And at the time I was a sponsor of the school, my agency that I worked at, and I used to go in and mentor and do talks to the students pro bono, which everyone can do. And just loved it. And he said, well, look, Steve Henry's just left being the ECD. Do you want to come and do that instead of him? And I wasn't expecting that at all. And I was like, wow, I hadn't really thought about it. But what a great thing to do. So I started doing that 2 days a week. And this was four years ago, I think. And it's just rolled. And originally it was come in as the ECD. And really how the school works is it's like a year-long portfolio. We get in a bunch of individual talented people who fit kind of the atmosphere and the culture, and we go on the journey with them, and you kind of work with them and you help them realize what kind of work they want to do and then where do they want to do it. So a lot of it is being their creative partner initially. They kind of work like a creative department, helping them with ideas and strategy. We teach strategy as well as craft and execution.
Great.
And then that all sort of comes together, and then when they're getting going and getting good and can do it, you sort of stop suggesting stuff and let them do it, and then just and then we guide them to make sure they go to the right places as well, because they're super in demand, these students. It's got a great reputation and they get a lot of...
Do you set, because I was at Watford and we did stuff in Watford, and then we'd come into town and get live briefs, and I think much more now Watford are sort of living in agencies because of the cuts and there's no money, and Tony says they just sort of sit sometimes for weeks on end in Havas or BBC or something. Do your students get briefs set by Mike Nicholson and a planner, or is it an agency that come in, or is it a mix?
Yeah, so I'm very much part of the faculty. I'm not running it. Mark runs everything. We have sponsors, so I think there's like 20 real companies that sponsor the school, ranging from PR companies to brands to, agencies like Mother and Adam and Eve, AMB, people like that. And sponsors, they can set live briefs to the students, and then the students turn around really quickly, like 50 ideas in 2 days kind of thing. So we work on that kind of thing.
Wow.
But then Mark sets portfolio briefs, and then there's all sorts of self-initiated stuff. And as one of the faculty, I go in and I can talk about anything. So I do a load of talks on all sorts of stuff, from how to think of original ideas to understanding different types of ideas, to posters, to TV, to everything, craft, and also resilience and how to sort of survive the industry and manage that kind of stuff. So
sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Sounds like I'd like to come on this. I need to come back on the course, and I think the resilience thing I'd like.
It's all, and everyone brilliant comes in and does talk. So, you mentioned Paul Belford and Dave Dye last year as part of the team, and all the other faculty are just A-list brilliant.
Dave Dye, we've never heard of him on this show. We'll have to.
Did you feel, Mike? Did you feel like it was a natural step from kind of running creative teams to kind of running student?
The money dropped considerably, as you can imagine, and
money. What's that?
Exactly, and I've had some interest, luckily, over the years from other, full-time work and whatnot, and I just keep wanting to stay because I don't think I'll find that atmosphere anywhere else, where you're just spending time with brilliant young people just doing stuff and coming up with ideas, and they're naive and saying stuff. They're sort of mentoring me, really, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
And you talked about the hunger earlier on. Do you see that hunger from your days early in East London before St Martin's? You're seeing that hunger in the students?
Yeah, it's really hard to get in, and they're really driven, and they sacrifice a lot to do it. And we have a lot of scholarships because it's a social enterprise, which is great. And there's amazing diversity. So we just started doing night school as well. So anyone who has to work can still do the course, and that's opened up recently. So I've been doing night shifts as well. And it's
do you have to do an entry exam? Is it a paid thing? How does it roll like that?
Basically, there's a quite odd process to get in, but you contact the school, and Mark chats to you normally on the phone, and then you come for an interview day where you have to basically do a 4-minute presentation, and that can be anything, which is really interesting. And then there's various other tasks that you do, and then from that you either get offered a place or not. And then there's also scholarships that you can then win, which are full scholarships, but there's bursaries and all this other stuff. So literally anyone with talent can do really well.
Obviously, what I've got to ask this because it's a show about we're on billboards. I mean, it's fascinating hearing about just the overall education. It's really, really great, mate. I'm really appreciating it. But do you have a billboard sort of module in your syllabus? And do you break it down into, do you have a method of teaching great billboard? Do you show work? I mean, obviously you show quite a lot of mine and Dan's work, I imagine.
Obviously. It's kind of organised chaos. So everyone nearly always does a poster with every idea they're doing, and I always recommend teams do that. Just whatever campaign you're working on, just try and crack a poster so you understand what the idea is and how it works, and it focuses the mind. I specifically teach talks on ideas, how to come up with ideas, how to craft them, and then how to do posters specifically is one talk I do. And then we just, like I say, we're just working all the time on briefs. Some of them might be poster briefs or not. And then you've got amazing other people that come in and talk about their careers or posters or technology, whatever it is. And then the other craft mentors, especially, you've got people like Alex Taylor and Rosie Arnold's just started, teaching art direction, but obviously they're not just teaching art direction. Everyone is just so brilliant at everything. And the students are great. So.
And your responses to brief, we all went to art college a long time ago, and the medium that we were creating for back then was relative. There were probably 3 things we would think about in terms of either ads or creating something for the public realm. Obviously, the young artists and people looking at working in advertising now have a glut of tech medium, social networks, film, on demand. There's, the TV, obviously there's the TV and poster stuff still. Sure. What kind of stuff are you seeing in brief response? Are you seeing people looking at kind of an omni-channel approach when they're coming back on a brief response, or are they focusing on one key area?
Yeah, I mean, typically we encourage them to kind of so Steve Harrison came in recently and did 2 talks, which were just brilliant. And he talks a lot about problem, solution, relevant, abruption is his kind of thing, which is really great advice for anyone. And that process, if you like, is great. So every brief they work on, basically we go, okay, what's the best idea? What's the best answer to the problem or opportunity? How does it live, and where's the best place for it to live? Do that. And I always just say to them, for the sake of getting a portfolio to get a job, just try and obviously push it into a few other channels that are relevant if you can. But honestly, the students if you look at the New Blood stuff, especially over the years recently, I think is outstanding work. A lot of it is just better than the professionals, in my opinion, and it's just like really interesting.
On that, Mike, I've got a question. It's really, I've seen your name in D&AD a huge amount, great creative work for yourself.
Yeah.
But then you've been in a lot as a lecturer.
Yes.
Is there a different feeling for you? And I'm wanting to be honest, is it a better feeling as a lecturer rather than a creative, or is it just different, or is it more pride?
Yeah, so, specifically in New Blood, we kind of help them obviously do what they do, and we've had a really great run recently we're on our hat trick for the Black Pencil. We won 11 this year, I think. We don't know what the colours are yet, but we matched our record this year with 11 different pieces of work from loads of different teams, which, awards are great, but, it's not essential for sure. But it's a great barometer. And on a personal feeling, it's just like, I love the journey you go on with them when they realise they can do it, and then they do it, and then they get rewarded for doing it, and they end up getting their dream job. And when I get a call, or when I'm constantly chatting to previous intakes, talking about what they're up to and trying to help them get to where they want to get to. And it's so rewarding when they get those jobs and they ring me up and tell me they've got it. Like one team's just got into Widens they've been trying to get in for Yonks and Uncommons for the teams we've looked after. And, it's so... Right,
well, I'm going to... I've sort of tried to tee you up for this, and you've walked into it really nicely. So here's a couple of quotes from people I worked with last week.
Right. Okay.
Mike is an SCA legend. No one doesn't love him. He is the nicest one of all the mentors. Mark is brutal. Mike is mellow and calm. We love his Hawaiian shirt, whatever the weather. Next quote, check his bedroom. Iconic wallpaper matches the shirts. Everybody, Mike is now having a drink. Joking aside, those were 2 creative teams at BBC Creative. I would say very, very good teams. They couldn't have been more effusive about you. So clearly, Mike, you're doing a fucking amazing job. So more power to you, sir.
Great.
We're running towards the end. Sure. I wanted to ask 2, 3 more things. Just the one thing is, what is the class of 2021 looking like? It sounds like you've got a pretty good batch, and are they already assigned to agencies and stuff?
No. Honestly, it's another vintage year. I think there's maybe 36 people that are just kicking in right now. There's a portfolio day coming up, which I think is the end of July. You can book in and create the teams on that and offer them placements. But I'd encourage everyone just to mentor at the school if you want to get to know them sooner. But it's such diversity, such range of, just work. And not just ad agencies. I'd encourage anyone who wants thinkers to come in. We get interest from, Acne and all those guys and RGA and all those other people. So, yeah, it's amazing. It's just great fun to come in and see their thinking and help them with what they're doing anyway. And I just love it. And, and I'd recommend that to anyone. And as far as this year, they are all getting really good already, and some people are getting interest already. So,
brilliant.
Well, make sure you send us the link for people to sign up and have a look at books, because we'll put it into the description of this and we'll tweet it out for you and everything.
Okay.
Yeah,
anything we can do to help.
We'd love to be involved, Mike, as well. If you ever want to do something with us, because we we've very nearly done a few things with people the last year, but because it's been a mindfuck with the whole pandemic, I mean, we were actually meant to go to Oxford University and give a big talk there, but that didn't happen because of this. And then there was another thing. So, you know...
behind the billboard brief.
Yeah.
There you go.
Maybe we could get involved.
If you chat to Mark and see what, you know, there's so many ways you can get involved. I mean, we're pushing...
Is Mark the brutal one? Mark.
Well, quiet he is, but he's not at all. But yeah, he cracks the whip. He has to, because he's really... He's so driven with it all and really wants them to succeed. And it's not like free or an art school. It is proper work. It's harder work than work, if I'm honest. It is full on, but in a good way.
Do you know what? I quite like what you said there, Dan. If we did, I mean, rolling it all the way back, Mike, to the Dunlop thing, you know, competition. Why don't we go? I mean, I'm saying this as I think it, so I'll probably regret it in about 10 minutes, but that's how I work. But behind the billboard brief, why don't we do one a year with School of Communication Arts, and it becomes a thing, and then we'll feature all the work on our site. And do you know what I mean? That would be quite cool.
Right.
Maybe interview the winners.
Yeah. Well, I'd suggest, I mean, again, the notion of reverse mentoring, of just getting young people to talk about stuff, rather than us old established people on, not necessarily on a podcast or not, but I think giving them a platform to talk about what it's like. So Connor, one of the students, this has started a podcast which he's done, which the students talk on, and he's asked me to do that, which is great as well. It gives really good insights. But you learn so much from these people, and they're not jaded or you know, conditioned by the industry. They're just so fresh and interesting. So that might be a good thing to look at.
Yeah, definitely. So we always ask this, favourite billboard of all time. You've worked at some stunning places and with some amazing people. Yeah. Whether it's been something on the wall that you've seen from one of them, or something you've actually seen in person or in a book or an award, what's your best one of all time?
Can I just skim through a couple, or does it have to be one?
Yeah.
Go for it. Go for it. I mean,
professionally, I've got to say, you know, anything Tim Riley's done, I'd say, specifically the Nike Jordan 1 and all his John Smith's campaign, I think it's just outstanding. Dave Dye's just the lamppost, you know, Adidas poster. Every time I go running, I think of that ad, and it single-handedly has inspired me to run, and I just think it's a brilliant piece of thinking. Nigel Paul's Waterstones campaign, definitely, especially you can take a book anywhere and vice versa. I just think it's just another amazing piece of writing that sells reading to everyone as the dual benefit. And again, you know, amazingly art directed by Paul. But honestly, the best post, I think, and this is going to sound, just because of the school, but I'm going to say it. I think I shared it with you, Hugh, when you asked me what's the best stuff I saw recently. So the team, Joe Sare and Nick Stanley, did a campaign for The Guardian when they were at school.
Oh, I remember this. Yeah, it's fantastic.
CCTV cameras. So I just looked and said, that's a yellow pencil, in my opinion. It was a great piece of work. Again, they built the poster they made. So it's one CCTV camera's looking out the 48 sheet at you, and there's a profile of another CCTV camera filming that CCTV camera, and on the side of that camera is the Guardian logo. And it's like, you know, we're watching the people that are watching you, kind of thing. It's just brilliant. It's so brilliant. And they went out for crits, and Rory Sutherland, first thing he saw, well, that's a yellow pencil. Niles Leonard, that's a yellow pencil. Got them into Uncommon. And what's great with it is that they pitched for The Guardian. I was chatting to Nick today about it. And they used some of the work in the initial meeting with the client at Uncommon to pitch with. So I love the fact that Niles and his team had the confidence to take the student work, show that in a pitch, which then led to them, or helped them in that client, which is brilliant as well. You know, so that for me, that post is probably my favorite.
I think
it's a real accolade for them as well, isn't it? Because you're saying, as an agency, they're not just pitching the agency; they're pitching the team that they have there. They say, well, this is the team. We've got the team that
but great ECDs and great leaders can just see talent. And I always say to the students, just share your campaigns with the clients directly. Just send it to them. Go, look, we've done this. We'd love to know your feedback. And occasionally,
I think the problem was a bit more. People are too shy and scared of stuff like that, or they're sat on by account people, or they're fearful. And clients if you're a good client, you fucking love great creative ideas. I mean, when I was at Mullen, I got on so well with NHS client. I was writing copy and directly sending it to him, and he would just write back going, "This is fucking amazing." And those were the words. I printed it out and put it on my wall, and it was the best accolade I ever had, because it was someone I was literally talking to as an equal, not layers of, research and people and red tape, just a creative person talking to a client and going, what can we do? So, Mike, thank you so much. I think we've done that exactly in an hour. It's been a real pleasure chatting to you, mate. I mean, I have known about you for so long through so many mates. I don't know if I've ever met you, but this has been a real pleasure, and hopefully we'll meet in the real world at some point. Thank you.
Yeah, it's been great. And like I say, anyone out there who listens to this, especially if you're a student, just get in touch. And all my talks are on my LinkedIn if they want to download those and learn from that. Help yourself.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Thanks,
cool.
Mike.
All right.